Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Thursday broadcast of the Marco Jure Show, everybody. It is July 24th. Thanks for being here with me, as always, staying up to date on all the groundbreaking news across the country where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please be sure to follow, like, share the show with some friends. I always appreciate when you do that. I see our numbers growing, so I do appreciate each and every one of you. I do. Let's get ready for the best hour radio has to offer. Let's talk about the big topic this morning. Now, I had to wake up to this and see this, and it's god-awful, of course, but Hulk Hogan died this morning at the age of 71. He died in his residence in Clearwater, Florida. The reports are suggesting that it was cardiac arrest. And that's, that's odd to me, really, because we just saw him last year at the DNC. I mean, he's ripped out of his mind still in his 70s. I mean, it's ridiculous to see something like that. And he seemed totally fine, totally healthy. So I'm wondering what's going on here. How this randomly happened. Apparently there were reports of his health deteriorating a few weeks ago, rumoring that he was in a coma, but his wife, Sky, dismissed all that. So again, odd, it's random that this happened, it's god-awful. I mean, he was a fixture, obviously in the WWF and then the WWE later on, starting in the late 1970s. And the man was always popular. He was a behemoth when he was in the ring. I mean, anyone you talk to, if you talked about Worldwide Wrestling, and you said, tell me someone who's in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, you would know that it was Hulk Hogan was one of them. I mean, he is the guy. He is the fixture. He is the main attraction. And yes, there are other great talents too, but he was the one. He was the trademark of that whole organization for so many decades. And his popularity never waned. You know, we talked the other day about the passing of Ozzy Osbourne. Same thing. A behemoth on the stage. Someone who is just simultaneous with the word heavy metal. That's Ozzy Osbourne. You know that. Ask any musician. They're going to say Ozzy Osbourne. They're going to bring him up. And likewise, when you bring up professional wrestling, you have Hulk Hogan, who's now gone. And it's sad to see that. It is sad to see such a thing like that. He was truly a patriot, as we all could see. His speech at the RNC last year. It's sad. It's sad to see that. It's very sad to see that. You know, I pray to God he didn't take that COVID shot, because I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we are seeing people get heart attack, stroke, go to cardiac arrest as a result of these shots. So I pray to God he didn't take this shot a couple years ago, or any of the boosters that went along with it. I'm not saying that's what it was, but I'm just saying it's just very odd to me that someone could be in that great of shape at 70 when we saw him last year, or 71 rather, speaking so, enthusiastically at the RNC. And then all of a sudden now we find out that he died of cardiac arrest. It's just odd to me. But the point is, Hulk Hogan was a true American. He was a Christian. About 18 months ago, he was born again. He was baptized to the church. And it's a sad thing to see when we see these big figures in our lives that we've all known. I was born in the mid-1980s. I mean, you knew who Hulk Hogan was growing up. You just knew who Hulk Hogan was. You knew who Ozzy Osbourne was. We see these people constantly, and they're constantly popular, no matter where they go. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne had 40,000 people showing up in Birmingham. 40,000 people showing up to hear him sing one last time. And obviously Black Sabbath to perform one last time together. That is massive, folks. That is massive. So, our condolences to Hulk Hogan's family, and obviously those that are suffering with this major loss. I mean, this is someone you do not replace, folks. Much like Ozzy, this is irreplaceable. And we hope he's in a better place, and that's the only thing we can hope for at this time right now. So I wanted to bring that up to you because, again, we talk about culture on the show, folks. This is a part of our culture. Hulk Hogan is that fixture. Whether he be in Rocky III as Thunderlips, throwing Sylvester Stallone out of the ring, or, giving someone a power bomb in the ring in WWE. And like Ozzy, ironically enough, he was also had his own reality TV show with him and his family. So, there's so many comparisons between the two. But two great behemoths this week, unfortunately, left us. And I think a little bit too soon, if you ask me. But it's odd. It is odd. Because you're so used to seeing them. You're so used to hearing about them. And now that obviously ends. So who's the next big name in these arenas? Who's the next big name in heavy metal that people would go to, like they would go to Ozzy Osbourne? Who are the big people that would go to a wrestling match to see someone like a Hulk Hogan, the Hulkster? These are people that serve as role models in many regards. I told you the other day, along with Ozzy, he wanted to play music that made a kid want to pick up the guitar and play it. That's what he wanted. And, of course, he loved music. That was his thing. Hulk Hogan obviously believed in a healthy lifestyle. He obviously pushed that. He was a motivational speaker on behalf of many things like that and, getting your body right. But you could tell that he enjoyed entertaining people. They both did. They're entertainers. So, these people that kind of bring this movement together, whether it be in the music industry or the wrestling, industry, these people are the ones that started it all. It's like the genesis began with them and just continues, that bright light just continues on with them. And I said to myself, well, what replaces that? Nothing. Nothing can replace that. And it's a little bit odd to see that this is kind of becoming commonplace. This is ending in many regards. You look at Bruce Willis, who right now is struggling with some sort of dementia, where he can no longer speak, I'm told. I mean, and he's, I believe, 70, if I'm not mistaken. Great actor. Great actor. I mean, the Die Hard movies, he's in Pulp Fiction. Countless movies he's in that he's fantastic in. But Bruce Willis is a name, and has been for decades, in Hollywood, in terms of acting, and being a great actor. So again, that's coming to an end. Unfortunately, I have to say that. But his health looks like it's deteriorating, and not very well. So we see these things, these things happen, but it's becoming a reality that a lot of these people that we've known for so long, especially in my generation of the millennials, so many people that are beginning to pass away and die. And it's sad. It really is sad. So I don't have any other words of wisdom to say beyond that. Take care of your body, keep your mind strong, keep yourself active, get some fresh air, get some sunlight every day. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water, taking supplements. But at the end of the day, what can you do? We all leave at some point. Let's go on to my next topic of discussion, though, shall we? Let's talk about this. This is by Paul Craig Roberts the other day. I wanted to go over this yesterday, but we ran out of time. But I think it's important, again, we're talking about culture. We're talking about civilization. What's going on with our brethren over in Europe? Well, nothing good, obviously. The article is titled, "White Women and Children in Scandanavia and Britain are no longer protected by law against rape." Now, in case you're shaking your head as to what I'm saying, yes, I did actually say that. And it says here that in Sweden, 2 Afghan migrants who brutally raped a minor at knife point are released by Swedish justice and will not be deported. Sounds odd. Now, this indoctrination, this brainwashing, of this Swedish judge, said that Muslims have different cultural values than Swedes. Well, no kidding, genius. We couldn't figure that out. And the Muslims were just acting in keeping with their cultural values. This is actually being stated by a judge right now. We hear cases in the United States where we can't believe what the judge is adjudicating upon. We hear these things, we're like, is this real? Or you hear a pundit say something ridiculous, over the top, outlandish, where we can't believe it. Well, a judge in Sweden actually said that a Muslim was just acting in keeping with their cultural values. This is outstanding. Do you think maybe that multiculturalism is simply not working in Sweden? Doesn't seem to be. When the native population is being raped at knife point and they're free to go because their values don't align with you. Really? Really? Where are the values in Sweden right now? Nowhere. He goes on to say, I think the judge is slandering Muslims, blaming cultural values for Sweden's refusal to enforce the law. But here we have a judge in his own admission that multiculturalism requires the acceptance of serious crimes for which a white person would spend many years, perhaps life, in prison, but yet that the crimes cannot be punishable because they are, quote-unquote, cultural values. What the hell kind of cultural value is that, by the way? I'm wondering. I don't understand this. Now, the judge has now since admitted that multiculturalism means white ethnicities, right? White ethnicities must tolerate lawlessness and their own lack of protection by the law. There is no law. There is no law. Let me get it. You can go again and look online, see footage of what's going on in Sweden. And clearly, it's multiculturalism is more important than the native Swedish population there, who are, I guess, are at the will of the migrants that they've imported and flooded into their country that don't assimilate to their values. Where have we seen this before? Now, it's extraordinary that white liberal women are coming out in favor of more migration. Of course, their support to silence the rights of these immigrant invaders that rape them. But where are the Swedish feminists? Where are the women that stand up for other women? We saw this in America here. When Donald Trump was being elected, of course, we saw the women in the pink hats, the lunatics, chanting against him, and obviously challenging other people. But where is that? Where is that in the situation? What about the Epstein sex trafficking of underage women, girls? It's illegal. And yet all over Europe, they allow these immigrant invaders to rape underage females. Where's the outrage? How come nobody seems to care? Nobody seems to give a damn. So again, the government, by the way, has allowed this flood of illegals, this migration into Sweden, where people are not assimilating. They don't give a damn about the law. They don't give a damn about the people. They don't want to make Sweden a better place, which is really what immigration is supposed to be. And yet, here you have your own citizens, your own people, being forced to deal with this day in and day out. And a judge has signed off on that. Now, you tell me that's not insanity, folks. You tell me that's not cultural suicide. Now, the same goes in England. Same as England. This goes in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Germany, another place. Germany, they try to actually give women pants that cannot be ripped, so they couldn't be raped in the streets. I mean, this is ridiculousness in every sense of the word. And here Paul Craig Roberts chronicles Liz Truss, the former British Prime Minister, in 2023 in a recent interview. And she stated the following. She said that we have seen appalling cover-ups of grooming gangs in Britain, with girls as young as 12 being systematically raped and no national inquiry. It's been covered up. There's a group of people who have essentially taken over our institutions with a particular worldview, and they don't want to be challenged, which is why we're seeing free speech being suppressed, because they don't want people to know just how badly wrong it is going. Now, you think about that for a second. You have your own institutions flooded with this left-wing communistic BS, right? Telling you that your culture sucks, your race is no good. In order to redeem yourself, you must import people from the third world into your country, from Africa, from the Middle East, from Asia, and they can do whatever the hell they want. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. Does anyone else see the insanity in this whole thing? What's happening in Britain? Go look at Paris, France right now. Go look at the streets. Go look at what's happening in Germany right now. Go look. Go take a look. Go take a look what's happening all over England. Ireland. You don't have to go far. Sweden. We just mentioned Sweden. Denmark, Norway. They're all committing cultural suicide. And what happens as a result? Well, we see outrageously low birth rates. That's a normal thing to see there, right? They're very low. They're not keeping up with the demographics, obviously. And they're importing more people that tend to have 4 to 5 to 6 different children. Now, I don't think I need to spell it out for you how detrimental that is to their country. Now, the New World view is only people of color have rights. Unless, of course, they're Palestinians who have 0 rights in the Middle East. No white person have rights unless, of course, they are Jewish, because Gentiles are all racist and anti-Semites. This is Paul Craig Roberts talking again. It is de facto legal to rape a woman if you are a person of color. This is true all over Europe. Now, conversely, let's go back to the United States. Let's talk about the United States, because a lot of it is coming here in many sense of the term multiculturalism that we continue to see here, right? We're seeing constantly the Department of Homeland Security continue to arrest people that have, just like mile-long rap sheets against them. They've been arrested. They've been released. They get arrested. They get out on cash bail. No cash bail, I should say. And they're free to go out and do whatever the hell they want. You have Democratic leaders that refuse to work with the federal government to remove illegal aliens, all of whom, under their watch, have been arrested already, and they just simply release these people. This is what we're seeing now. Now, California has allowed to have these illegal aliens even become police officers. It's that ridiculous. You have people that are non-citizens, that have been breaking the law, to become police officers, to enforce the law. That doesn't make any sense, does it, folks? And, of course, these democratic cities and these democratic deep blue states declare themselves to be sanctuary cities, in which no law cannot pursue people who have entered the country illegally. This is insanity. Again, think California, think Illinois, think New York, think Oregon, Washington, D.C., New Jersey. I mean, think of these states. No democratic jurisdiction takes the side of America against illegal invaders. That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. It's insane. And again, here he goes again. He says this: in the United States, if you're a person of color, you can, in California, or could have, as the law might have been repealed by the mass exodus of businesses, steal $950 per day in a store if you are a person of color without any type of criminal charge. A white person could not. Now, that did get repealed in the last election cycle. Prop 36 repealed Prop 47, which allowed that, which, again, in and of itself was ridiculousness. That you would allow someone to steal $950 worth of goods before you even do anything about it? I mean, that's just insanity. And that's why you saw crime rising. Now, Gavin Newsom gets away with it because after a while, people said, you know what? People keep coming into my store. They're stealing. I'm calling the cops. Nothing's being done. Well, I call the police. Police are going to come there and do nothing. Or they arrest the person and they have to release them. Then they go out and do it again. Back in, I think it was 2023, I was working in a school. Someone broke into the school because they thought we were on summer break already. They broke into the school, smashed through the glass. They come in, break in, they start trying to take things out. The police knew who the guy was. They had arrested him 4 times before. They only got him to surrender himself. And the cop said he'll be back on the streets this afternoon. It's unbelievable. I mean, this is not how a civilized society is supposed to work, folks. And again, look at New York City, our first, biggest, largest city in the country, who wants to elect a communist Muslim as their new mayor. New York City has or intends to give votes to illegal aliens. Remember they tried to pass this? They tried to give illegal aliens the right to vote? This is how they stay in power. This is how they do it. And then again, New York City is on the verge of electing this communist immigrant invader as its mayor. He hasn't assimilated to America. He hates America. Everything he stands for is anti-American. It's not pro-constitution or pro-business or love thy neighbor. It's nothing but the opposite of that. Now again, imagine New York City, the financial head of the capitalistic world, about to elect this moron Mamdani as their communistic mayor. I mean, you're seeing the collapse of America right in front of your eyes. And again, they're little by little. They take over New York. They take over Minneapolis with that Omar Fatah, who looks like a drug addict every time I look at a picture of him. Same values. Same exact values. Wants to create a bridge to Somalia. For what, I have no idea. Except it's not American. The idea behind immigration, I'll just end with this. The idea behind immigration is to bolster the existing population. That's what it was for. It wasn't just a dumping ground for people that don't like where they live. It was you came to this country, you assimilated, you spoke the language, you didn't go out and commit crimes, otherwise they would have deported you back in the day when we had saner times. And you followed the law, and you became an American. And the people that came here in the early part of the 20th century, up until roughly, the middle half of it, wanted to be Americans. They came here to be Americans. They ditched their old culture, primarily. They didn't speak the language of their country of origin anymore. They let it go. They assimilated. Their children assimilated. They didn't come in and take over the schools or the police departments or destroy the communities. And that doesn't mean there weren't poor people that came here or there weren't poor neighborhoods. Of course there were. But they didn't go out and wreak havoc on the entire nation. That's the difference. And we saw people bring themselves out of poverty, by and large. By and large. But look at this nonsense. You have a 12-year-old girl in Sweden raped. And the judge says, hey, it's their values. Get used to it. Suck it up. Absolutely appalling to me. Absolutely appalling to me. What would the founding fathers say about this? The state of this nation. Well, we had a president of the United States, Joe Biden, melt our borders down and let everybody come into the entire country. Anywhere they want to go. They put them on buses. They put them on planes. Paid for by you. Illegal aliens. Sending them all over the country, folks. Yep, that's how they stay in power. And of course, it destroys the fabric of the civilization. Wonderful, right? And of course, you have people like Gavin Newsom who allocate $250 million for health care for if you're here illegally, though. You can't be here legally to get it. All paid for by the legal taxpayer. It's fantastic, isn't it? Absolutely wonderful. All right, now that I'm upset, the blood pressure is rising, I'm getting upset here reading this nonsense about my country, about Europe, who, again, you look at Poland, you look at Hungary, you look at Russia, you look at Slovakia, who've all closed their borders. Switzerland may be in there too. Low crime, low crime. The civilization wants to survive. They're not destroying themselves. Now, Italy's trying to make a comeback on that. That's what Giorgia Meloni is trying to do, to deport illegal aliens. We'll see if they follow through with it. But people have to decide. Are they going to become communist? Or are they going to be staying Christian and capitalist? What are they going to decide? This is what it comes down to, folks. And we are at a watershed moment here right now in this country. Make no mistake about it. All right, this is in the New American. It says here that SCOTUS may overturn a 45-year-old precedent, which itself overturned a 193 precedent. What are they talking about here? Well, we just talked about culture. We talked about how important it is that the culture should have maintained, that Protestant Catholic work ethic that we used to have in this country. Now has been plagued, of course. But it says here, should the Ten Commandments be displayed in public schools? This is going to be a huge controversial topic. A lot of controversy will be around this, of course. With relatively new Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas laws mandating such, this matter may soon come before the Supreme Court. And the idea, of course, is that the court may soon be overturning this 45-year-old precedent that itself overturned this 193-year-old precedent. That of almost 2 centuries of American tradition and praxis, think about culture again, nationwide, by numerous generations, based on the consensus constitutional understanding of which our Constitution was founded. For it wasn't uncommon for government schools, this would be our public schools now, government-run schools, to display the Ten Commandments prior to 1980. And for that matter, the Bible was also taught and used in American education in the late 18th and early 19th century. So think 1700s, 1800s. Now, although the wonderful judges, right, the handful of lawyers and judges in black robes, only consider themselves now to be precedent, what are they talking about here, though? We're trying to put together the Ten Commandments back into our public schools. That's what they're talking about here. And, of course, they don't like it. They don't like it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to know about it. But, of course, they're claiming already that the suit claim for this law violates the First Amendment. Yep. The First Amendment. Now, according to the families, students in the classrooms with the Ten Commandments posters will be forcibly subjected to scriptural dictates day in and day out. A situation that violates the fundamental religious freedom principles that animated the founding of our nation. The Texas challengers, as well as the families in Arkansas and Louisiana, drew on a case from 1980 called Stone versus Graham, in which the Supreme Court ruled in an unsigned decision that a Kentucky statute requiring a copy of the Ten Commandments to be hung in every public school classroom violated the Establishment Clause. So what is the Establishment Clause? The Establishment Clause says that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So, for example, they're trying to state that the state cannot come in and force the school district to come in and hang that. That's what they're saying. But in my understanding in this case, it was the school district that wanted to do this, if I'm not mistaken. Or, it was a Kentucky statute. So it seems like it was a Kentucky statute. So again, it was put into law that this copy of the Ten Commandments be hung in every classroom. And they're trying to state that the state cannot come in and do that, is what they're trying to say. The 5-4 opinion in Stone versus Graham centered on what is known as the Lemon Test, which came from a 1971 ruling, Lemon versus Kurtzman, which considered how to determine whether a state statute violates this Establishment Clause. Now, in that case, the court outlined a 3-part test, and here's what they have to do to figure this out. Now, first, a statute had to be found to have a secular purpose. Of course, it has to be secular, right? No religion aspect at all, right? The atheists win every time, don't they? So there has to be a secular purpose. Well, historically speaking, this country was founded on the Ten Commandments in many regards, and Christianity in very many regards. Hence, we are a Christian-based nation. That doesn't mean every single person is Christian, but we are based, again, on Christian values and doctrines. Now, second, the statute could not promote or restrict religious beliefs or practices. Now, they're not saying you have to come in only to the school if you're a, non-believer, or if you're Jewish, or if you're Muslim, or if you're Hindu, or Buddhist, or whatever. They're not suggesting that. It's a public school still. And third, the statute could not foster excessive church-state entanglement. And so in Stone, the majority determined that Kentucky's law violated the first prong, since the preeminent purpose of posting the Ten Commandments was plainly religious in nature. Even if the Kentucky lawmakers claimed they were celebrating the Ten Commandments historically, rather than religious value. Again, we have to talk about you talk about the founding. It is important to understand what the founding was. The Constitution did not state that a statute must have a secular purpose, by the way. That's important to understand. But again, they put these presidents in there to get what they want. They get it removed, right? But again, this is where we find ourselves. You have to ditch Christianity. Ditch it. Send it away. Go away. Don't come back. Take it out of the classroom. Take it out of the school. And where do we find ourselves? In a godless, lawless, as I mentioned in my previous article, institution. That's where we find ourselves. Anything goes. Hey, as long as it doesn't have Christianity in it, that's totally fine. Do you see how this leads to where we are today, folks? The insanity of it all. Now, of course, separation of church and state was never even in the Constitution. So, again, that's not really anything that they can technically use. Jefferson used the phrase in response to the Danbury Baptists, but there is no bearing of that in the First Amendment. So everyone says, hey, separation of church and state. It's not a part of the law, folks. It's not a part of the law. And allowing the Ten Commandments or Bibles in schools, public schools, by no means it's establishing a religion in the school. Now, establishment as applied to this amendment means that you meant the religion itself you must belong to or face fines, penalties, imprisonment for noncompliance. That's what it meant. That's not what they're saying here. That's what the First Amendment was guarding against, not the practice of religion in the public square, which again is outlawed in many regards. So we see these things happen. We see people trying to push back now. They want religion back in the schools in the sense of they want people to understand these Christian values. That's what they want to see. That's what they want to see. By the way, we talk about prayer in public school. That was taken out in the 1960s, in 1962 specifically, with the Warren Court. And of course, JFK went along with it. By the way, I'm still waiting to see those unclassified documents. But they were against prayer in public school. They said it was unconstitutional, that kids are saying a prayer. You're making kids say a prayer. And of course, you can't force a kid to say a prayer because it violates their First Amendment right. Right? Now again, understand this. At the time this was happening, about 83% of the nation was Christian. So it wasn't like it was this, crazy thing where we see today where we have Christianity starting to drop significantly. At the time, it was very, very much a part of American culture. And here was what the prayer was. 22 words. It says, Almighty God, we acknowledge our dependence upon thee, and we beg thy blessings upon us, our parents, our teachers, and our country. Amen. That was it. That was the whole prayer. They didn't say, in Jesus' name we pray, or anything of the such. That was what the prayer was that they recited. Now we can't even get kids to say the Pledge of Allegiance in public schools anymore. Hey, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. And just some background on this case itself. This was in Long Island in Herrick's Union Free School District. And the plaintiffs were, two of them were Jewish, one was an atheist, and one was a Unitarian church member. And what the hell is a Unitarian Universalism? It is a liberal religious tradition characterized by its commitment to the following. Get this. Diversity, inclusivity, and social justice. So again, blasphemy against the Christian doctrine. That's what you had there. Taking prayer out of public school. There you go. What do we have now? Oh, now we have kids bring guns to school, knives to school, fighting at school, skipping school, doing drugs at school, not paying attention at school, talking back to teachers. I mean, what are they learning? Learning how to be a good little communist now. So I think as time goes on, by the way, Kennedy backed this too, by the way. Kennedy backed this too. He said the Supreme Court has made its judgment, and a good many people obviously will disagree with it. Others will agree with it. But I think it is important for us, if we are going to maintain our constitutional principle, that we support the Supreme Court's decision, even if we may not agree with them. Look at that. And he says, a reminder to every American family that we can pray a good deal more at home. Oh, yeah. So take it out of the public square, keep it in your house, and let God knows what rain in the streets. And you're seeing it rain in the streets today, aren't you? That's what you're seeing right now. So I think it's good on these states that they challenge this and they bring it to the Supreme Court. Because, again, the Christian doctrines, the whole reason this is important is because this is who we are as a people, as Americans. That's what America was founded on. Christian doctrines. It wasn't founded on secularism. It was founded on Christian doctrine. And I love the left always tries to smear the founders. Oh, they were all deists. They were all non-religious. No, actually, they were all religious, by the way. Just so everyone's aware of that. Just so we're clear on that. You know what? I think it was one story. They were looking for Jefferson. It was a Sunday. They said, well, he must be in church. And they went, and of course, they found him. He was sitting in church. I mean, these are who our founders were. You know, they weren't perfect. They weren't prophets. But they are the people that wrote our Constitution. They gave us our founding. That gave us these values. And they gave us these seeds to make this the most blessed and most prosperous nation in the world. And now we see ourselves turning our backs on that. And again, this goes back to the whole migration issue. You can't bring in people into your country who spit on your nation's values. You can't do it. You simply can't do it. Look what's happening in Israel right now. They won't even let Christian people come get visas to come into the nation. And that's why Mike Huckabee is throwing a little tantrum over there. Because they don't want people to come in and proselytize Jews. They want to keep their religion. Okay. But it's okay for them to do it, but nobody else to do it. Apparently. Now, obviously, it's their country. They don't have our Constitution. But we see how... Do you think you're going to go into a Muslim nation and subvert their religious doctrines and their text in their form of government? Of course you're not. Only in America we have to commit suicide as a people, as a culture, as a religion. And again, it was all done by our wonderful people in Congress. Yep, it all comes down to that. Now, speaking of things, I saw this again. I had to laugh at this last night. The whole world is flipping out about Joe Scarborough. Not Joe Scarborough. What's his name? Stephen Colbert. I always confuse the two. Both not talented, wear glasses, real goofy looking. But they can't take it. They can't take it that this clown, this putz, this loser is getting kicked off the air. In May of next year, by the way. He's not even fired right now. They're keeping him on for a little while longer. So on MSNBC, this MSNBC, this MS Nobody Cares contributor goes full drama queen over this Colbert cancellation. And her name is Molly Jong Fast, and she looks just how she sounds, like a complete nut job. The different color hair, the weird glasses. You know what this woman looks like. Your typical leftist woman in America. I wonder what side she would be on of the Constitution or in Christian values in public schools. I wonder. I sometimes wonder. She wanted to say that it was scary that a TV show got canceled. My goodness. I mean, that's really scary because we've never seen a TV show get canceled before. Even though it happens all the time. And of course, in this case, the show in question is losing tens of millions of dollars per year. I guess she failed to add that addendum to her little rant here. But she went on to say the following. She said, even if it's not a quid pro quo, the idea of self-censorship. And I love this. What do you mean self-censorship? He didn't say everything he wanted to? I mean, he might as well have been a DNC spokesperson on his show. That's the only people he brought on his show. The only values he pushed. Same thing with every other late night show. That's why nobody watches them. And I talk about my grandfather, Howard Fast. Who the hell's Howard Fast? Who knows? Who was jailed by McCarthy during the House Un-American Activities. And that was, for those of you that don't know, was a McCarthyism, was somebody who was going after communists in government and in the entertainment industry, people who are professed communists, and he was going after them. And right around the World War II era. And they had this committee that he was on called the House Un-American Activity. So if they were doing things, like Imam Dani, who was coming out and espousing communism, they would look into his activities. Again, this is when we had Sanders times. That was our government. That's what our government has done before this. And that history is very much filled with moments like this. Is anyone jailing Stephen Colbert? Was anyone jailing him? Last I heard, no. He still makes $12 to $15 million a year? He's still getting paid, isn't he? I mean, does this woman remember the last few years where people were so happy to silence other people, to cancel people who spoke out against the COVID lockdowns or the COVID vaccine, or just simply anything that the left was doing that Republicans and conservatives didn't agree with? She was fine with that. She's fine with canceling other people's free speech, not their own free speech. So it comes down to rules for me, but not for... is that how it goes? Rules for me, but not for thee. Yeah, there we go. And it was something like that. It's unbelievable, though. I mean, the show is clearly not making money. They're going to go in a different direction. And she's freaking out like it's the worst thing possible. Now, more on Joe Scarborough, whose show also gets very, very low ratings. I think they get about, 600,000, 700,000 viewers a day. They don't even touch Colbert, which is interesting to me. This is what Joe Scarborough said on his show the other day. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, the economics of the late night shows just didn't make the sense that it's made for the past 50 years through Jack Paar, the age of Carson, of course, Letterman, you go on and on. So the economics were making less and less sense. But the timing of this actually is terrible, and it's terrible because you had the settlement with Donald Trump, and then you had Colbert and Jon Stewart criticizing that decision, and then a week later they're saying, "Oh, unfortunately, we don't have the money to continue this." I mean, it's not even like they're trying to hide the main purpose of it. I mean, it's certainly, again, you can make that economic argument, but that economic argument should have been made weeks before this, or should have been made.
Okay, all right. He's going off on tangents now. If your show is making no money, folks, if your business, let's go with another example here. If your business is not making any money, and it's costing money, obviously, to run, and let's say this business got sued, are they going to keep on somebody who's losing the company millions of dollars per year? Tens of millions, not even a couple million. Tens of millions of dollars per year. Now, if Stephen Colbert's show was actually successful, if people actually tuned in, and they were making money, then you wouldn't see this happening. Of course it's economical. Of course it is. But again, he has, around 2 million people listening a night? He has this massive staff. The show's not funny. People don't view into it. And the people that Scarborough just talked about brought in way more people, like 3-4 times the number that Colbert brings in. And this was, think about Johnny Carson, who was off the air in 1992. He had up to 9 million people a night tuning in to his show. And his show was actually funny and successful and interesting and good. They didn't have politicians revolving around or giving you DNC talking points. Quite the opposite. It was something that you could watch, you could enjoy, you could laugh. And you could go look at the old Johnny Carson reruns. I mean, it was funny. The show itself was funny because they had people on that had actual talent, including Carson himself, who was a great, great host. I'm looking here on the side of my screen here, and this is 6 days ago on the Colbert Show. right? It says Schiff delivers message directly to Donald Trump. Who wants to watch this? And of course he's cursing him. Donald F off. That's what it says on the screen here. Who wants to watch this crap? And who the hell cares what Adam Schiff thinks? Anyways, I think he should worry about his own damn self. He's going to be brought up on charges of mortgage fraud pretty soon. And of course, the whole Russia hoax. He's sitting right in that chair. He is a very big part of that. So if I were him, I'd be more worried about that versus going on a failed dunce's television show. And of course, mouthing off to the President of the United States. That's very good. Right, Adam? He has no class at all. That piece of garbage. Anyway, now that that's settled, let's move on to The Hill. This is a good article. I like this one. It says that Democrats want an autopsy report on the 2024 election. What do they mean by this? The DNC has now publicly announced that it will conduct an autopsy on its failed 2024 presidential campaign. This is very interesting to me. An autopsy on the campaign. Well, first of all, you had a candidate who couldn't even breathe properly, Joe Biden. I mean, he was barely alive. You saw him in his last debate. I mean, come on. You put the worst octogenarian out there who everyone that paid attention could easily see his mental facilities were not in place. Anyone could see this, folks. Anyone that was honest with themselves can see this. The deniers, oh yeah, he's great, he's fantastic, look at him go. Meanwhile, he's stumbling, he's falling multiple times, shaking hands with the air, doesn't know where he is on stage, getting lost on stage, needing his wife, other politicians even, to come and get him, because he doesn't know where he is. The making up of words. I still don't know what true definition of a depression means. I don't know what it means. I'm serious. I don't know what's going on here. Makes no sense. And forget the fact that he had probably the worst economy of any president in American history. That didn't help out at all. Then you add in the 20 million illegals, you had the lawlessness, you had the, stagflation. You see the absence of any type of job creation. And of course, they get out and lie to you. Saying that they created, 13 million jobs? Are you serious? Folks, if Joe Biden created 13 million jobs, that is massive. That would have grown the economy just massively. Did we see any of that? We saw the economy shrinking under the Biden administration. You saw gas prices going through the roof. You saw the price of food going up. Everything going up. Energy, gas, housing. You saw, this discord in the streets. You saw no sense of law and order. You didn't see any of it. And yet, you were told Joe Biden's fantastic. He's working hard for you. I didn't see anything that would indicate that. I'll be honest with you. And I'm an honest guy. I didn't see anything of that he was doing anything of the sort that benefited the American people. Just lie. Oh, we brought unemployment down. That's because people that were unemployed stopped looking for jobs. That's all it was. And I can tell you this unequivocally because if you look at the labor participation statistics, that dropped under the Biden administration. So you had less people working, less people looking for a job now because, again, they're on the government dole or God knows what. And the jobs that people did get were small, either government jobs or, small part-time jobs, taken primarily by immigrants or illegal aliens. We don't know because they try to classify them together. And you saw the American citizen not taking those jobs, not getting jobs. That's what you saw in any type of labor report. So, they say all these things, we need to do an autopsy of this. No, what we need to do is a forensic audit on the 2020 election. See if this clown even won the election, which I'm not convinced he did. Yes, I'll say that. As sure as I'm sitting here, I don't believe that he got 81.3 million votes. I refuse to believe that Joe Biden, who couldn't even get anyone to show up to his Phoenix rally, not one single human being showed up to see him speak in Phoenix. Maricopa County, Phoenix, the largest county in the state. Couldn't get one human being to show up. The press was there, But nobody showed up. And I know this because another talk show host spoke about this. He was there going, where's the event? And they said, well, it's canceled. Nobody's here. He said, nobody's here? They said, yeah, not one person showed up. And, you saw him at other events. There was, chairs with circles on them, just spread apart, like 20, 30 people showing up. And then meanwhile, you have Donald Trump performing with these arena-like theatrics, which were all real. And even in Phoenix, Donald Trump had a 96-mile car rally. 96 miles. That's not tiny. And yet somehow he lost Arizona, shockingly enough. So there needs to be a forensic audit. Donald Trump should do a forensic audit. He should do a forensic audit on 2024 as well. Especially in these blue states that do not require a photo ID. And there are plenty of them. In fact, I think every single state Kamala won, with the exception of a couple, are all like that. You don't have to show any form of identification or photo ID to go vote. And when you have a sanctuary cities in states like New York, and Illinois, and Chicago, LA, San Francisco, and California, Oregon, Washington, all of them, you got to say to yourself, something's wrong here. The polls closed at 8 p.m. on the West Coast. And at 8:01, they know indefinitely that Kamala Harris won, and of course, Adam Schiff won. You try to make sense of that. Yet they couldn't handle the congressional races for weeks afterward. A small little district, about 1 million people. They knew how everyone else was voting. And nobody says anything. Media, California called it. Really? At 8:01 with 0% reporting? They know exactly who won the election? Are you kidding me? No, Donald Trump needs a forensic audit the 2020 election and the 2024 election. We need to know who actually is winning these races. That's the only way you can actually figure out if there's any type of election fraud. So he should be looking into that right now. That's what he should be doing. And let the Democrats do their little forensic audit of their own stupid party, which is, again, not looking very good for themselves. And it's not looking good for Kamala Harris, folks. I got to be honest with you. Even in the New York Post article I have here, Kamala Harris's ex-lover, Willie Brown, old slick Willie of San Fran Schmucko, warns of her, I added that last part in there, by the way, warns of her difficult road to win the California governor race after her resounding 2024 loss. Well, no kidding. No kidding. She's not popular. The only reason they got people to go to those events in many regards is because they had people performing at them. Hey, you want to go see Beyonce? Might be there. Everyone shows up. It's a free event. Kamala Harris talks for a little bit. Then, all right, good night. And then everyone goes, wow, she's so popular. She's so elegant. Yeah, right. Now, Kamala Harris is not a good fit for California's governorship. I will say that. She's not fit to do anything, I don't think. She's not intelligent. She has no insight. She has no wisdom. But she knows how to play as a member of the machine. She's very much like Gavin Newsom. They're very much cut from the same cloth here. And what do I mean by that? They're both from the Brown/Burton machine that runs San Fran Schmucko. That's what it is. That's what it comes down to. They're both from that. They're both put in these certain positions to, again, extend their political careers. That's what they were put into. Willie Brown gave Kamala Harris her first job, working in some stupid district office. I forgot what it was. Helped her win the, DA of San Francisco. He helped her do that. He got her involved in that. And then, of course, you have Gavin Newsom, who appointed him to the Board of Stupadvisors in San Francisco. That was Willie Brown when he was mayor. So you see they both come from the same political craftsmanship, I guess you will say, of this Brown/Burton machine. And I say Burton because Phil Burton was the originator of this machine, this political machine in San Francisco. And Willie Brown is a faction of that. But here he was talking about her chances, and will it be good? Will it be bad? He didn't seem too confident, folks.
She may not want to run for governor of the state of California. That may not be where she should be going. I think it's going to be difficult for her to win that job.
Yeah, it is going to be difficult. She's only polling at, what, 40% right now? She's a native Californian, yeah. Now, it is going to be a tough race for her, but you have people like Rick Caruso who, teeter-totter between Democrat and Republican, who are actually proficient in what they do. Rick Caruso owns the Grove in Los Angeles, very popular spot. He owns Americana as well, and some other buildings, I think in the Palisades, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure he has real estate all over California, but he's a billionaire. He knows how to run things. He is somewhat, cognizant of the faults of what's going on in the state. So he would be a very big potential foe for Kamala Harris. But again, she's not popular. She's not polling well. She doesn't come off as authentic. She doesn't come off as authentic when she does anything. And the article kind of concludes with him saying that he told her originally not to take the VP pick. He said she should go for Attorney General. I mean, can you imagine her as Attorney General? She'd be just as worthless as No Merrick Garland. Maybe just as ridiculous. It wouldn't be any different. Same nonsense, going after Trump, same platitudes, all that. She's just an empty skirt, folks. I don't know what else to say about her. There's nothing else to say about her. And that's all I have to say on Kamala Harris. God forbid she wins any type of election in the state of California again. That would be awful. Absolutely awful. The AP News has this article now. I'm going to finish with this today. We got a couple minutes remaining. And it says here that appeals court finds Trump's efforts to end birthright citizenship unconstitutional and upholds this block. So many of you knew that Donald Trump was going after the issue of birthright citizenship, primarily among illegal aliens and their children, of course. And the idea, of course, is, do these people that come in here illegally, that have kids that are born on American soil, are they American citizens? That was the question at hand. And now, of course, this federal appeals court in San Francisco, no kidding, San Francisco. This is the place that just sold out a play, I think, in the name of that ridiculous lunatic mom. What's his name? Mangione? Luigi Mangione? Is that his name? I think that was his name. The guy who killed the healthcare CEO. Yeah, they sold out a play in San Francisco about him the other day. Ridiculous. So you see where the values are in San Francisco. But they ruled on Wednesday that President Donald Trump's order seeking to end birthright citizenship is unconstitutional, affirming a lower court decision that blocked its enforcement nationwide. So, this came from the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, after being blocked by this federal judge in New Hampshire. So, the decision keeps a block on the Trump administration from enforcing the order that would deny citizenship to children born to people who are in the United States illegally or temporarily. Now, there's no other way to explain this to you except read you the actual text of birthright citizenship and, of course, where it comes from. And it's important that we, of course, understand this. And look no further than the 14th Amendment. What does it say exactly? Well, I'm reading from Saving the Constitution, which breaks all this down. Let's read it, shall we? This is what Donald Trump is talking about. And he's absolutely right about this, by the way. And it says here in the 14th Amendment of our Constitution, Section 1, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, comma, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Well, go tell it to people in Sweden, for God's sakes. So what is meant by this? What is meant by this? This is the big issue right now. We have somebody who's born here. Are they an actual legal citizen of the United States? What does that mean? So the main issue here, and to understand this, of course, is that the plain meaning of the 14th Amendment means that one that one must both be born in the United States, we're talking about the parents, and be subject to the jurisdiction of. So you have to have a parent that is here of legal status, that is a citizen at the time of your birth. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. They're not here temporary. You're not here on a visa. You're not here illegally. You are subject to the jurisdiction of. That means you are a citizen of the United States. Since there are two explicit requirements here, explicit requirements, they cannot both be met simply by being born on American soil. The history of drafting of the 14th Amendment makes it clear that the language, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, meant a citizen could not owe allegiance to any other foreign power. This excludes illegal aliens who are in defiance of U.S. jurisdiction and are citizens of a foreign power. That's all. That's all you have to say. That's what is meant by that. That is the actual language in the Constitution. And that's what that means. So the whole idea of, and this is the term that is used, anchor baby, is irrelevant. But again, this is what's being told. If you're born here, you're a citizen. That's not what the 14th Amendment says. And Donald Trump understands that. He understands what that means. And so knowing that, we have to ask ourselves, so then we have a whole issue of problems with people that are here that are, again, call them dreamers, call them the DACA applicants, whatever you want to call them, they are subject to a different jurisdiction. And it's not the United States, because their parents' allegiance is to another foreign country. So I imagine that the Supreme Court will eventually hear this case. I can't imagine they wouldn't. And they're going to really have to break this down, though. Because, again, we have to decide, folks. Are we going to stay a Christian, capitalist nation that is constitutional, a constitutional republic? Or are we going to go the wayside in the way of Mamdani? What are we going to choose, folks? I think you can figure that out, which one's correct, if you want. Folks, thanks for being here with me. Make sure you stay square with God, folks. Make sure you keep your house in order. Make sure you're staying productive. And make sure you're always tuning in on the Marco Dure Show. I'll see you tomorrow on the next one. Until then, stay busy, be good. God bless.